Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event. Are you ready to pop your cork? In the left corner at 6'4", 242 pounds, with a record of 45-0, the undisputed.
Hey, Michael.
Hey, Will.
Hey, how many bottles of wine have you had?
Well, Will, it's not the wine. I'm just so excited about the podcast.
Yeah, I am too. This is not a boxing match. This is We Know Texas Vino.
Salute.
Welcome all you Texas wine lovers. I'm your host, Will, and we're sitting here at a very beautiful location here in Valley View with Tom. And unfortunately, Whitney's not able to join us at this moment. Hopefully she will. Kilgore at 555 Vineyard and Wineries. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you, Will. It's an honor to be here, sir.
It's an honor to have you here because I know we've been chasing each other down for a while now, haven't we?
Absolutely. We might be a little busy between the two of us.
Oh, yeah. Just a smidge, right? Yeah. Well, real quick, let me hit my social media stuff right quick. You can find us on Facebook at We Know Texas Vino. You can also find us on our website at weknowtexasvino.wine or .com. And, of course, you can find us on any podcasting platform. And if you find us out there, give us a 5-star rating and give us some feedback. We love listening and hearing what you have to say about our show. We love just knowing that we're filling a void out there for people who want wine education and wine knowledge about the wineries here in Texas. So you're listening to We Know Texas Vino, episode 79. Can you believe it's 79 already?
That's not how old I am. You made me think there for a minute.
Sorry about that. I didn't mean to do that.
Yeah. Well, I feel that way after a hard day out here. So
a couple of days, I feel like I'm 79 too. So
yeah, exactly.
We're here at Valley View at 555 Vineyard and Winery. Welcome again, Tom. Thank you for having us out here.
Thank you.
First off, I just want to kind of describe our listeners, if they have some of them who haven't been out here yet. We're in a little 2-story building. Looks like on the back side of your house. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Kind of overlooking y'all's back of y'all's yard of y'all's house, and then down to y'all's vineyard with a huge, big glass door. Is that actually a sliding door?
Yeah, we're hoping that the weather stays the way it has been the last week or so we can get those things open and kind of bring the outside in.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I went camping last week. And it was nice the whole time. In fact, I actually fell asleep in my zero gravity chair and woke up at 1 o'clock in the morning cold because we're sitting out by the lake and it was kind of chilly, you know. So, Tom, I just have to ask. I mean, and this is probably one of the same questions I ask everybody. Why? What got you into wanting to be a winemaker?
And as I was joking around earlier about that, Will, sometimes I ask myself that same question, especially after a hard day in the vineyard, on the road, that sort of thing. I think it's kind of a multi-fold answer, I guess. Wine is definitely something near and dear to my heart. Mm-hmm. I began making wine in the mid-'90s when I lived overseas and lived in a place that shall remain nameless, where you either have to make your own alcohol or kind of bring it in, that sort of thing.
Okay.
So I started making wine when I worked overseas there in a Middle Eastern country, and really got enamored with it. The art and the science, mm-hmm. and really enjoyed having folks taste some of the wines that you make and give you feedback that they enjoyed it. So I kind of equate it to I'm sure it's what a chef feels when they create a dish, and that sort of thing. So really just fell in love with kind of making wine, that sort of thing. And then when Whitney and I started dating, we used to go to this really small little bistro in South Texas near where we lived. And of course, I was trying to impress her, so I'd bring some Italian wine that I brought back from my time in Italy. But we kind of joked around talking about, wouldn't it be nice, kind of later in life to have a place in your backyard, mm-hmm. where you can entertain friends, make new friends every weekend, have something great to eat, great conversations, and a wonderful glass of wine. And lo and behold, here we are quite a few years later, looking at what we want to be when we grow up here at this stage in our life. And wine is, what we want to be and do.
Right.
So,
that's one of my favorite things about wine is, with other spirits, beer and spirits, you really don't, it doesn't bring people closer. In fact, if anything, it drives a wedge in people. one thing I joke around is I say that you don't hear about a bar fight in a winery, but you definitely hear about fights in a bar.
Yeah, that's true.
But when you go to a winery, you start drinking wine. The next thing you know, you overhear a conversation with the person next to you, and you start talking to them, and then you start talking to those two, and then the next person overhears y'all also, and the next thing you know, you're talking to them, and the next thing you know, you've got all the tables in the winery, you all slid together, and all sharing a bottle of wine.
Absolutely, yeah.
And there's no other place that you could find that.
Yeah, we see that pretty much every weekend. Our club members, and then folks who've just found us the first time. They start conversations and start talking about their experiences around wine, the things they like, what they like about being here. Some of them even go grab their drone and fly it around on the property and over the vineyard. And, so it's been very, I guess, cathartic, to have the folks come out and share time with us, conversations, and, to say their customers would be the understatement of the century. They're friends and their family already, in fact, I was talking about having a sore tooth about a month or two ago, and one of our club members was in here, and she said, well, it's a weekend. What are you going to do about it? And I said, well, I can't do anything. So she opened up their clinic and pulled me in on a Sunday.
Wow.
So I could get it taken care of. So it's just the most amazing.
That cost you?
Still to be seen. So, but it's just the kind of folks that this industry attracts.
Right.
They're just amazing.
Yeah. Well, so what did you do before you decided to do this whole winemaking? You and Whitney, what did both of y'all do before y'all decided to do this?
Well, that's a long and convoluted story, I guess. But I started off in the military, and actually
appreciate your service.
Thank you. They gave me a great haircut, and I still have it and it matches yours. Your barber does the same thing. So kind of parlayed that into working for aerospace companies afterwards. Which took me all over the world. And for a small town, South Texas boy, whose first introduction to wine was not the best, Boone's Farm, kind of.
I think that's everybody's introduction to wine.
But started traveling internationally, and I'll never forget. I took a flight on Air France, and they served a beautiful beef bourguignon. Probably one of the best meals I had at that point in my life, and it was on an airplane. So go figure. But they wouldn't allow anything else to be served with it other than red wine. So I thought, okay, well, I'll give it a shot. And I'll never forget that experience, because it really helped me understand, how things kind of fit together, in terms of tastes and experiences and that sort of thing. So started trying wines everywhere that I went, had the good fortune to travel throughout Europe pretty extensively, lived in Italy for a couple of years. I lived in the Middle East for a few years, that sort of thing, New Zealand for a couple of years. So everywhere that I went, one of the constants, in all of those places was amazing wines.
Right.
And just to be able to jump in and learn about them and, continue to, check boxes on my own personal experiences related to wine, So that's kind of how that part started. And then really just, it was always kind of floating around in the background. I did a lot of process control work over the years, automation controls, things like that, sales, other things. But it's really strange, because almost all the things I did over the years have kind of all culminated in things that help me in this industry, to be better positioned. And obviously Whitney's just an amazing business person. So she's actually an academic, so she's got her PhD, and she knows how to run a very well-oiled machine. So that's why we've jumped and run so quickly here as we've gotten started. So
interesting. Yeah. I mean, that's probably one of the best things I love about doing this podcast is hearing about everybody's background, where they came from. I mean, because we all didn't come from money in the background. It's we all come from humble beginnings, and we decide we're going to do this, and then it's either all or nothing. You can't just put one foot in then one foot out. It's either you do it all or do it, which leads me to one of y'all's quotes: "Jump into the deep end." Can you kind of explain that one a little bit?
Yeah, that's kind of word for word exactly what it is about jumping into the wine industry. Whitney and I went to a Twiga conference as we were kind of considering jumping off into the deep end. And, we learned a lot. We had been, volunteering at some of the wineries and harvests and things around in our area, just amazing friends and family that they've become now at this point over the edge of the lake, Chris and Sin and Doc, Fred. And then, we did harvest out at Arcade, and, this industry is amazing because the folks were really supportive and still are, and, helping us. But, and looking at that, we left the Twigga conference and we went and sat down with Fred Cummings over at the edge of the lake. And they had been at the conference too. This is, I forget, 3 years ago now, 4 years ago. And so we sat down with Doc and said, hey, what's the one or two things we should and shouldn't do kind of thing? And Fred laughed and he said, well, number one, you shouldn't do this because it's really hard, and he laughed, and we did too, which only made us more determined to, to jump off. So I think the deep end, there is no halfway of doing this. So that being said, we've really jumped off. So in fact, we opened our tasting room quite a few months before scheduled, just because we didn't want to miss a summer cycle. Right. We weren't quite ready, but I think the longer we would have waited, I don't know that we would have been any better prepared. Right. So it was a leap of faith to jump and get rolling. And I think that's one of the hard things about this industry, and one of the fun things is you kind of have to be a problem solver and figure things out and find ways to, work around, find another path, those types of things. I do a lot of IT stuff and working on projects, and you get to the point where you're ready to roll it out, but everybody's like, we need to do a little bit more testing on this. And it's like, I've done all the testing I can. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off and just do it, and we can figure the rest out as we go, and that's, you're right. You can sit here and you can prep and you can never be ready for the day that you open. Yeah. And then you can never be more ready for the days after you open until you actually open. And then that way you can kind of sit back and look at everything like, okay, we should have done this. We should have done that. You don't think about that stuff when you're trying to get open. You think about it after you get open. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and life's an iterative process. I think, Whitney and I are definitely lifelong learners. So we've changed careers and changed directions in life. I have jumped around to different careers and then gone completely different directions over the years. And in doing so, you start back over from the bottom. So you have to be willing and receptive to not knowing and not having all the answers. But, knowing where to, make friends and find that expertise and ask the right questions and do those types of things. So we've been really, really blessed to find the right friends and family, I guess, in this industry. And they've been so supportive, but you don't know what you don't know until you get going, so for sure. Yeah. You definitely got to jump in with both feet first and then hope you don't drown. Well, and there's that being said, there's a lot of plan. We've planned, but you got to be ready for that first day too. But there's fine tuning that we'll be doing every weekend. Oh yeah, you'll be doing the fine tuning all up till 5 years later. Exactly, because just when you think you finally got it, you got to change everything again. Absolutely, and then you think you got it again, and then you got to change it. Oh wait a minute, dang, we just did this yesterday and it worked. Now I can't do it today. Exactly. Yeah, that's just life of. If anything, I think. Absolutely. So in this journey so far, we all have our ups and our downs. So tell me, what was your favorite thing that you've been doing to get your winery up, get your wine ready? What was one of your favorite things to do? Like every morning you got up, you're like, oh, I get to do this. And this is the fun part. That's pretty easy to answer. So we really enjoy the interactions with the folks who come to visit us. So we spend time at the tables talking about our wines, why we chose these wines, why we, serve them this way. It's, our backstory of, why we started this, how we started, why we chose the property. We're so honored to be custodians of this property. It is truly gorgeous. We're right between Lake Ray Roberts and then an 8-acre lake to our west. We have the most amazing climate here for grapes, and the soil is perfect. So it's just, we couldn't have landed any better, and to have it be here in the Texoma AVA too.
Right.
So when we're relating those stories, that's my why, I guess, from a day-to-day standpoint, getting a chance to, kind of, it'll be a long day, and I've been up and down the stairs 65 times, it feels like, serving and clearing and helping out and that sort of thing. And when it's all said and done and it's over, when Whitney and I sit down on the porch and, sunset's kind of creeping in on us, we'll have a glass of wine, but it's very much, as much energy as we expend doing it, we get it back from the people, we get it back from the feeling of accomplishment that we get. Same thing if we've just been working in the vineyard and we have a chance to, sit on the porch and look down at the vineyard and appreciate, all the blood, sweat, and tears from that day, and since we put all the posts in ourselves, there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. So
probably some other works too.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So what are the things then during the whole process of getting this started? What were the parts that you did not like? Like you woke up and you're like, man, I don't really want to do this, but I have to do this if we want to get this going. It's like that motivational thing, because I know for me, like when I start a new project, I really don't want to do anything with it because it's a new project. But usually once you get started, it's not so bad.
Yeah, there's a long list, and on a day-to-day basis, some of the good things turn bad too. I guess, gosh, that's a tough one. Well,
give me your top two.
Well, it's not really. I mean, frustration points more than anything. But we had a saying in the Marine Corps. It's an opportunity to overcome something. You know? So Whitney and I really thrive on challenges. So when adversity hits or things are bad, that sort of thing, I'll give you an example. The vineyard is my favorite place to be. And also at times, I kind of feel like running around and pulling stuff out of the ground, So, and
I know that
Mother Nature just throws things at you. And here in Texas, we can't count on anything weather-wise. So earlier this year when the eclipse occurred, for example, so it's more of a frustration point than something we dread or don't want to do. But we had been down in the vineyard taking pictures that day. All of our second-year vines that we had two budded in spring were, they were 12, 18 inches out of the grow tubes, and they were just looking beautiful, and we were high-fiving ourselves. And then we had a tornado come in right across Ray Roberts from us, 100-mile-an-hour wind, sideways, hail. It broke our front doors in on the house and blew hail throughout the house. And basically, it looked like in the vineyard, somebody had walked around with a machete and topped all the vines off. So, so everything was doing extremely well. And the next day we get down there and we're walking through and it's just like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And sure enough, they fought back. And in fact, I think it did more to irritate the vines and make them grow better because a lot of them look like they've had a bad hair day at this point because we had to kind of let them go feral so they would kind of do their own thing a little bit. But I think it's more, I don't really see anything I don't want to do. It's just there's some times when things get frustrating after the second or third iteration because Texas heat has killed brutal. 20 or 30 of your vines in the last month. We've got cracks that show up sometimes down there when we get the worst of the droughts, and they'll run right across where a vine is and basically just separate the root structure when it separates.
That's devastating right there.
And there's nothing you can do. The damage is done. But I'm having the time of my life. I've never done something where I want to get up every morning and go back at it like this. So to be my age and be able to say that I think we've picked the right thing. So
Well, I will say this. This is my first year working in a vineyard. I worked over at Arcade, and the one thing I only dreaded was the heat. Like I would work until I couldn't bear it no more, and then I was like, I can't do it anymore. It's just too hot. But getting the feeling that you got to do when you harvest those grapes.
Yeah.
And knowing that you sit out there in the heat and you pruned and you tucked and you pruned and you tucked. You got slapped in the face with a vine, not once, but maybe 50 or 60 times. and you get to see the fruit of your work.
Yeah.
And then you get to go in here and you get to crush them and you get to destem them and then you get to process them.
Yeah.
And then you get to put them in a bottle and then you get to pour it in a glass and you see the smile on the people's face. Makes it all worthwhile at the end.
Absolutely. Yeah. And in fact, I was working on the vineyard this morning for, I don't know, about 4 hours and, just relishing the way stuff has progressed growth wise. So our 3rd-year vines are really strong trunks now and nice diameter on things and good pipes. And, we're just, even with the setbacks we have related to heat or wind or hail or whatever, it's really, it's very rewarding to see continuation on it, So even whatever Mother Nature throws at them, those vines are pretty resilient. We just got to be good,
right?
Tenders and custodians for them, so.
And I'm sitting here looking at the vineyard where you're at. Now, you're on top of a hill right here.
Yep. How
much does that temperature drop just right in that little area right there?
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the several reasons we bought the property was the slope, the hills that we have here on the property, because we do get good, drainage of cold air off property. We have, being this close to Ray Roberts, we kind of have about a 5 to 10 mile an hour onshore wind, nonstop. So we get good air movement around the vines. They're on nice sloping terrain. Even with the clay, base that we have here, even though their feet may stay a little bit wet, the surface water drains off. So when we were looking for the property, when we found this, we knew it was it. But yeah, we do have a nice pooling to get it away from the vines when cold weather hits.
Nice.
And we're since we've got so much water mass on both sides of us, we have a degree or two of the right direction no matter which season. So we're a tiny bit warmer in the winter and a little bit cooler here when it's been brutal elsewhere, further from the lake.
Well, that's always a nice little addition there when you look for a property to make your vineyard and stuff. Yeah. I know we were talking to Robert Clay back in June. Their property is right there next to a creek bed, and so they said that it might be 110 degrees outside, but right there at that vineyard it's like 90. Yeah. So it's always have that 10, 15 different temperature range is so much better on those grapes. Yeah. So that's awesome. Yeah. So. Speaking of this property, how long did it take y'all to find this spot? I mean, because I know, talking to a lot of people when they were looking for their vineyards, they don't just find the first spot. They're like, oh, this is where we're going to do this at. They search for 6, 8, 12 months before they actually find the right property. Yeah, we spent a couple of years. We'd been all over this whole area. I mean, a pretty wide range of places we looked at over that couple of years. And, when we walked out on this property, kind of in the background of the view here, right where our north porch is at for the house, and kind of overlooking the vineyard, we stood there on that hill and said, this is it. And we basically immediately put an offer in on it. And then we started coming out every day while we were under contract and walking around and, planning. So what you see out here now is, basically the way we envisioned it, a few years ago. And we just continue to chip away at that mental image and the plan we have, for the property longer term. And it's a continuous improvement plan. There's just too many things to do to take it all on. But we chip away at it week by week. Our rock pathway, walking around out there is almost done. Hopefully we'll have that done here in the next few weeks. And there's always something that we're trying to do beautification wise. We cleared the ridge line so that the view of the vineyard's a little better. We had some honey locust trees that are just brutal. Right. So we got those out, and it became an asset. So we've had some of our club members that now that the brush is piled up down in the low spot there, they said, well, you're going to call us, aren't you? So we can come watch when the bonfire goes, right? And, so we said, hey, sure, we'll let everybody know, and bring your own lawn chair and we'll get everybody out here, when if you want to come out for that. Well, what you could do is when it's supposed to freeze, have them come out here and watch, but also help run that brush by the, hey, you want to come and watch this bonfire? Come help us too.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep this vineyard warm,
Yeah, exactly.
So looking at y'all's amazing tasting room, I mean, you absolutely have a gorgeous tasting room here. And I know another winery, Lonesome Vine, who had a gorgeous tasting room when they first opened up.
Yeah.
And within a year, they already had to expand.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm bringing that curse to y'all.
Yeah, well,
or blessing, however you want to say it.
We're good friends with Andrew and Christy. So and we saw the very first, their original tasting room, and we know we're probably going to be in that same position. Well, not probably. We already are. We have. We tell folks we make a reservation because we're cozy, and invariably we have folks come and just show up too, which is a great problem to have. Yep. But we do have some standing room only at times. Folks waiting outside, and now that the weather's changed, we're looking at some outdoor seating options. But yeah, we are definitely feeling the growing pains already.
That's good.
So, and that's truly a good problem to have. So.
Oh yeah, and I'll tell you what, I remember sitting out there with Christy and Andrew. They hadn't been open but maybe 3-4 weeks, and when the first tasting room was just barely a small little tasting room, and you had to open the doors, we were like inside and out of the door doing recording, and that was definitely a fun little experience. And to see them bloom what they have.
Absolutely.
And
that's a measure of their wines and their company.
Oh yeah.
And they, all the folks here in this area, I think we're seeing a kind of a surge in folks coming to the wineries, and that's a testament to kind of the industry here and what it's become. So we're really honored to be adding our small little bit to it.
And I'm hoping and praying for the same blessing that they got, where you have to have like a whole new extension, and then you got to have a covered patio, and then that's still not good enough. You got to have more. I'm hoping for that for y'all.
Yeah, thanks. We're hoping to.
The one thing I a lot of people know I work at Landon Winery, and I pour wine over there just to talk to people. And a lot of people come in and they're like, "Oh, we love going to Fredericksburg. We love going to Fredericksburg." And I was like, "Why do you want to drive 4 hours to drink wine when you can drink wine an hour and a half away, or actually in this case here, it's 45 minutes here?" And you can drink probably in a weekend, you could probably drink like 7 or 8 different wines, for different wineries. And they're like, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "Well, right up the road here, 45 minutes away, you've got 3 wineries that you can go to. And then you can go up a little bit farther, another 45 minutes. So you can get 3 more wineries." Yeah. So you just right in this area, we've got 12 wineries in this area.
Yeah.
And actually fixed to be 15.
Yeah. And, that's the feedback we're getting from folks, especially, we're close enough to the Metroplex to be, an easy trip, a day trip to come visit a handful of wineries, but far enough so that they're getting away from town, So, and now that there are 3 of us here in Valley View itself with Edge of the Lake, Chris and San, and then Firelight, George and Meredith, we're really happy to be joining them because, Valley View is now a 3 winery destination.
Yep.
Folks can come spend time here. And then, especially with the fall wine trail starting, we're excited about that because we feel like a lot of folks are going to find us. And I think, looking at Fredericksburg, our wine is amazing up here, and we've got a customer base of millions. Even larger than Fredericksburg is wonderful. It's a destination. I go down there all the time. We do, but we have something different to offer. I think Texas is that way. Each of the regions, have something different to offer the Texas wine drinker.
Yep.
So.
That's the one thing I tell people when they come in. I tell them, I say you can get you a cab sauv from up the High Plains. And you can get your cab sauv from North Texas, and you can get your cab sauv from East Texas, and then get one from the Hill Country and drink it. And every one of them will let you taste the area they came from. Yeah. And that's what like you said, it's the beauty of Texas, because you can get the same varietal, but not the same taste. Which then goes into the next comment I will say, is that you can get the same varietal and give it to 4 different people from the same areas, even though they may came from, let's say, the High Plains.
Right.
And you give it to 4 different winemakers in those 4 different areas, and it will still taste different.
Absolutely.
It'll taste how they have in that area, you know?
Yeah, we've got a bunch of amazing artists who are making wine in this state. So it's, I think, and we've had a couple of folks come in and they say, well, I've never really liked Texas wines. And I said, well, you haven't tried the right ones. Texas is growing and changing, and there are some amazing folks who have been making incredible wines for decades now. And I think that Texas is coming into its own, in terms of the notoriety, and that's evidenced by we've got large conglomerates from California, wineries coming in and buying properties here.
Yeah, because they're jealous of what we have.
Yep.
So, one of my favorite stories, first off, when I was at Grape Fest, we had people coming in. In fact, where I was stationed at Grape Fest, main gate, I was right there. And the bad thing about it was I was also right in front of the empanada guy. So I was right there in front of his booth the whole time, and smelling empanadas and drinking wine.
And there's a problem with that? I'm not sure.
I was broke by the time we got through Grape Fest. But people would come over and they were like, well, where's the best place to get wine at? And I would say, you can go over to Bingham, you can go over to Landon, you can go over to Mississippi Hoff. And they're like, well, we don't really want Texas wine. And I was like, well, why do you not want Texas wine? And they're like, well, it doesn't taste good. It doesn't taste like California wine. And I was like, well, first off, do you live in Texas? Well, yeah. I said, are y'all from California? No, we're from Texas. And I'm like, well, first off, you want to support Texas industry. Always 100% Texas. And I said, second off, California, and this is not me bashing California, okay? California makes their wines in a particular way. They make it for everybody that like wine, okay? But Texas, we want you to enjoy what we have here in the state. And we have different stuff that makes everybody's palates happy. You may not like, say, winery A over here's wine, but you can go down the road to another winery here in Texas and you'll like theirs. And the sad thing about it is they probably got it from the same vineyard.
Right. Well, and I think, over the years, folks like Bob Young, Doc down at Bending Branch, for example, planting the first Sonat here in Texas and things like that. I think, the Texas wine industry, over those decades that I talked about, they've picked wine varietals that actually grow really well here and are giving us a different signature, than California for sure. May not be the same, types of wine, but I think we're some of the best wines I've ever tasted, are right here from Texas, grown in Texas, made in Texas.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've drank some California wines, and I'm not going to lie. California wines I like, I'll just be loud about this, are the mom and pop ones. I think there's more love and attention to the wines there than are the big production in the wine stores or the grocery store, the wine stores, liquor stores, whatever. Because those, to me, feels like they break them down to the molecular level. And they bring them up and they have the same wine, whether it's a 2019 vintage to a 2020. It's always tasted the same. And I don't like that. I want to be able to taste that dirt. I want to taste that bee flying by and dropped off a little pollen on the grapes. I want to taste that stuff, So the small mom and pop wineries in California are really good. I find that they actually, I won't say they're similar to Texas, but they have their own style also. Just like here in Texas, all the mom and pop wineries. And I'm not going to say anything's wrong with the big ones either, because they're not doing the molecular stuff, but I prefer mom and pop because why? There's more personality in that wine. We get, when I come and sit down and drink that glass of wine with you, I get a taste of your personality, which that kind of sounds weird. I just said that out loud. Almost kind of a silence of the lamp type thing there. Sorry about that.
No worries, Will. I'm scooting over a little bit though. I'm teasing you.
But I mean, I get to taste what you're putting into that bottle. Yeah. And that's one of the things I love about Texas wines. And that's why I started this podcast, because I wanted to know why you did this, and I wanted to know your passion, because to me that makes that wine taste better.
Yeah. Yeah. And all of there's been so many great places that Whitney and I have traveled to around the state that, until we got into this industry, I didn't realize how many, wineries and how many winemakers there were in the state and that sort of thing. So it's been really, really interesting. We've stopped off in Mason at Dutson Cervantes. Oh my gosh!
I got bottles that still
didn't want to leave, because just because of the conversations. And the great wine too. But it's just like I feel like every time I stop into one of the places, I'm learning from the folks. And I think that's part of it. So I have to agree. We enjoy that part from our side. So we in fact my normal joke with tables is I say I've got to go do something because Whitney's going to make me stop talking because I'm talking your ear off. I have that same problem also. I get told I need to stop talking so much.
But
there's so many stories behind the wines and wine and everything. So we tend to we share a bit of that, and that's been well received by our wine club members and our folks who come in. So we're just going to keep doing that. You have to kind of put yourself out there. It's not. This is definitely a case where Whitney and my extrovert personality types fit into this because we've never met a stranger in our lives, and this is definitely a case where we enjoy talking to people about the why behind Texas wine and why we should be extremely proud of this industry. So we've made that commitment that we're going to be fully Texas only and just try to maintain that. Not try. I think we can easily do that. There's so many opportunities to even with our tiny property here to purchase grapes from high plains and hill country or even right here in Texoma. So it's I think it's a case where we just got to go with what works well here for us based on kind of the parameters that Mother Nature gives us here.
Right.
So
and I agree with you 100% on that. If it wasn't for wine, I would still be hiding in my closet. Okay, wait. Let me back that way. If it wasn't for wine, I'd still be sitting on the couch because, honestly, you're right. I wouldn't, if I wasn't doing this wine stuff, I wouldn't approach you at all. I wouldn't even talk to you. But because of the wine, I would approach you, bring your flyer, say, hey, here's my podcast. Here is Texas Wine Lover. Here's all about Texas wines. I give that information out and people absorb that because they don't know. And when they don't know, that's when you educate and you kind of almost, it's like you lighten up a little bit, the light gets a little bit brighter. It's like somebody's turning that knob just a little bit, like they don't know. And they start asking questions and they start turning that knob a little bit more. And then they're like, okay, we got to turn this knob back down because he's talking too much. So in your vineyard here, what do you got growing right now?
Awesome. We basically have an oversized test vineyard at the moment. So we've got
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, we've got a little over 3 acres. We've got Viognier, Picpoul Blanc, and Roussanne for our 3 whites currently. And then our reds are Cab Sauv, Grenache, Mourvèdre, and a tiny bit of Petit Verdot. And we're kind of trying to pick and see what the next 2 large blocks, we're going to very intentionally look at what we want to make our estate wines that we're known for.
Okay.
So we're kind of evaluating sales here in the tasting room, looking at what people's likes are, and then we'll double down. We'll probably do a couple of 2-acre blocks that are individual grapes. And right now, I'd say Tannat is very high on the list on the red side.
Okay.
And then Picpoul Blanc is absolutely winning on the white side. Our Picpoul right now is our best-selling wine.
Okay.
And so I don't know that's not set in stone yet. We're just looking at things. We've got a lot of area to plant here, but we've got to be careful too, because being a mom and pop, type operation, we're that piece of it is extremely time and effort heavy.
Right.
So we really have to, spend our energy wisely on, how much further we expand what we're growing ourselves. We want to make sure that we've got enough on site to make at least a couple of wines that are fully estate. In fact, next year we'll probably do a red field blend and a white field blend from those varietals. and then, see how those turn out, kind of get the grapes in the, position to, be producing and harvested and
Right.
such. Really everything up to this point has been all about infrastructure. So next year is really going to be our first real harvest. We got a few hundred pounds this year. Well,
that gives you an idea what you're gonna have.
we know what the possibilities are, and it's been something of a surprise as well. We planted 5 rows of Cab Sav, and everybody was saying, well, it's not going to do well here. They are truly growing like weeds. They are the most beautiful vines we have down there. They're lush. The trunks are just, for the short 3 years they've been growing, they're doing extremely well. So I don't know what that means to how the grapes are going to produce for us in terms of winemaking, but this ground sure has been nice to us.
That's good,
because it's a limestone base with a lot of clay.
Also nice
mix. So we joke around with folks here and tell them it's perfectly terrible for growing anything else, except hay, which is what was done on it for years prior to us picking it up, picking the property up. But it's absolutely perfect for grapes, So
out of curiosity, what kind of hay was it? Coastal?
I have no idea. In fact, it was hayed at times, and then there was a pig farm on the property here.
That's why your Cab Sav was growing well there.
Yeah, so yeah, and that's my running joke. We could probably throw a bolt out and grow a Buick, kind of thing. So, in terms of some things,
right.
But it's not that great for some of the other things we've tried to grow.
Right. So what current wines do you have currently right now that you're selling to?
We actually have the same varietals that we're growing on the white side, obviously, but those are all High Plains grapes.
Right.
So we've got Picpoul, we've got Viognier, we've got Roussan, and then we have a Rhone style white blend of EMR. Which we call All Hands. And then on the red side, we've got beautiful Malbec, wonderful Cab Franc, and an absolutely incredible Tannat. Currently, we have we're about to bottle a Tempranillo, and I've got one barrel of that's actually I transferred over to a bourbon barrel from Bending Branch's whiskey operation. So we are very excited about that, and our wine club members are already chomping at the bit because the Tempranillo will be coming out here in the next month, and then the bourbon barrel will come out shortly thereafter, because it's only got about 45 days in the whiskey barrel at this point. So
Nice. So as we're coming to the close of this for the first part here, first off, how did you come up with the name of 555? And then I'll let you follow in that answer with also tell us about Rosie also.
Okay, very good. So 555 just happens to be the address for the vineyard.
Okay.
So our tasting room's at 655 Triangle Road, and our vineyard's at 555. So we were struggling to come up with a name, and once we saw that the address was 555, we started seeing it everywhere. So we kind of, and I'm not into numerology or anything like that, but we found out that it's actually called the angel number. So it signifies a time of great change in one's life, typically for the better. And to start a vineyard and a winery at my age is definitely a time of great change in one's life.
Yes.
And then, the logo that we have for the winery here is somewhat of an angel wing, but it's vines twisted together. And in our first year, we had 2 Viognier vines that reached across the 10-foot row spacing, grabbed each other, and then rolled back and formed this wing shape. So that's actually from a photo. So everything just kind of came together that way, So we've really taken on the 555, as our branding, and it just fits. Even Rosie's license plate, which is our 55 Ford pickup, her and our website is 555wine.com. So we're having fun playing with this 555 thing. So even our All Hands Highlands white blend that I mentioned. The label for it is 3 hands on the label.
Okay.
So you've got 3 5s there, and so we're going to continue to play on that. So all of our labels now and in the future will have some hidden 555 in them, that sort of thing.
So in that case, what you should do is like say, hey, there's a hidden 555 in this bottle. And if you can find it, you get a free bottle out of
it. We don't hide them that well. That would cost us a lot of money. So.
Well, you can go there. So like, what is it? Down there in Mason, I'm trying to remember downtown.
There's 3 great wineries.
Oh man, I'm trying to think. Not Parr and not Murphy, not Robert Clay. What's the other one?
It's a play on.
Oh man, I can't. I'm drawing a blank on his name.
Yeah, I am too.
One of his labels is black light sensitive. So there you go.
Yeah.
Or you could take it and put it on one bottle, put some lemon juice on it, and rub 555 on it. And the only way to find it is you have to take a lighter and light it up.
That's interesting.
See, there's a whole bunch of different ways of doing it.
Well, and we've got a red blend that's coming out. That our 23s are just now getting ready to bottle. So we've got a really nice red blend, GSM blend that we're calling that. We got our approvals on the labels already. It's called Time, and there's a clock face on it, and there's a really long and beautiful story related to that label. So the clock is actually an old grandfather clock that we have, and the hands are obviously set to what time?
555.
Exactly. And then around it, spiraled around the clock face, are the words to a song called "My Grandfather's Clock," which was written by Whitney's great grand uncle in the 1840s or so.
Wow.
And up until that time, those clocks have been called long box clocks or chamber clocks.
Okay.
But because of that song, the term or the phrase "grandfather's clock" was coined. So they wouldn't be called grandfather's clock if it weren't for her family.
Man, that's a claim to fame right there.
Yeah, so our bottle of Time, which everybody will be able to enjoy next year when it's been in the bottle for several more months. For the 23s, we'll have those in here too. So we've got a really great lineup over the next couple of years.
I'm excited.
Of wines. So
I'm definitely excited for y'all.
Yep, thank you.
So as we're going to draw the close of this, so is there anything you want to say from your heart to our listeners out there and to your soon-to-be new members and your visitors coming out here? Is there anything you want to tell them?
Absolutely. And I know a lot of folks in the industry listen to this. Whitney and I are very honored to be here, so to speak. We're benefiting from the efforts that the folks who've been doing this for many years. Mm-hmm. You mentioned a bunch of the names of those wineries, that have put in many decades of blood, sweat, and tears to get where we are as a Texas wine industry. So I think we're really honored for the small part that we have to play in this, and we're doing our best to uphold, the reputation of Texas wine. So to those folks, I would say, thanks. We got here as fast as we could. And we intend to do a really great job at the best that we can. To any of the customer folks on that side of the house, anytime you come and join us at 555, we're going to treat you like family. We're going to make sure that you enjoy the wines you have, and if you don't, we'll find one that you prefer better here in-house and explain to you why we make the wines we do and what this is all about. And it is truly a passion project for us. Right. We joke around at times and say, why didn't we just retire and start traveling? Instead we get up and, work at 5:30 and work every day and work our fingers to the bone. But I tell you what, I was mentioning sitting on the porch and enjoying that day, when you've put that kind of effort in, every day is that way here. Right. So we put ourselves into this and we're very, very pleased with the response we've had from, our customers coming in and trying our wines and enjoying our foods that we put on the table and that sort of thing. So.
Awesome. Well, Tom, so where can our listeners find y'all at?
So we're easy to find. We're on the web. Our website is 555wine.com. So
and that's the numbers
555wine.com. Yeah, just the numbers 555 and then WINE. And that, as I mentioned, that's also the license plate for our 55 Ford pickup. And her name is Rosie. We actually have a rosé named after her.
Okay.
But you can also find us at Gainesville's upcoming wine walk this fall. The Valley View Wine Walk on the 12th here of October, really quick. I hope we're ready.
And I got 2 free tickets still to give away.
Yeah, so well, that was a good segue. So 555, but you can also find us 3 miles west of or east of town on 922 on Triangle Road, and we are open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday currently, and probably we're looking at a 4th day. We're trying to decide if that's which other day per week. Yeah, well, folks, we've got folks voting for every day of the week. Other than that, so we're going to have to decide here pretty quick. But that's a requirement for our blue sign, with the state.
Right.
So we'll have a 4th day here pretty quick, and it's Thursday, Wednesday, or Monday based on the majority of the votes thus far.
Okay.
So we don't know which of those yet. But,
yeah, you want to run consecutive to each other.
Yeah. Try to. But,
yeah. So, Tom, what we're going to do, we're going to take a small little break, kind of get a little stretch our feet, and we'll come right back, and we're going to do a nice little wine education.
Okay.
And just kind of let everybody have a little sneak peek of it, is what is a vintage and what does it mean in winemaking and aging of wine. So we're going to take a quick segment, and we'll be right back.
Hey, this is Jeff Cole from TexasWineLover.com. We're here with Will, Michael, and Jen from We Know Texas Vino.
And this is Amy Nemec with the Texas Wine Lover mobile app. We're wrapping up the interview and moving into the wine education portion of the episode, so stick with us.
Welcome everybody back to We Know Texas Vino. We're sitting out here at Valley View at 555 Vineyard and Winery. And I've got Tom sitting here, and y'all can't hear us, but you can't see Whitney either, but she's taking pictures of us. I'm going to have to get her to sign a release form to my agent for that.
Very good.
She didn't even hear me. So, well, Tom, before we cut off from the last first part of the show, we said this education is going to be about what is a vintage and what it means into aging wine. And so I'm going to briefly sum it up, and then you can fill in the blanks. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Okay. So a vintage is basically when the grapes were harvested. And then, of course, during the harvest time, depending on how the winemaker wants to do the wine, they age it from there. So, I mean, you can have wine that's been aged for 5 years before you actually put it in a bottle. In fact, actually, I know Robert Clay. He's got wine in a barrel for 10 years now.
Yep.
And so, but he's making a traditional port-style port. So, sitting out in the heat, 10 years in barrels. I don't know how that works, but it works.
Probably some cooler temps involved there, I would think.
Oh,
but,
yeah. Oh, yeah. So can you kind of go in, you don't have to go in like complete scientific, notation of everything about it, but, just kind of give in your own words what the vintage means and what it means in aging wine.
Absolutely. And as I said, not an expert, and I'm kind of self-taught in most things in life. But vintage is, as you said, when the grapes were harvested. You can have a wine that's NV or non-vintage, mm-hmm. meaning it might have a mixture of wines that are blended from different years or mm-hmm. multiple years. Different wines really, as you said, require different amounts of aging. Mm-hmm. So some of the, especially reds, you typically will see whites, get produced, fermented, stored shortly so they can clarify, and mm-hmm. then racked and bentonited and that sort of thing, and then they go to filtering and bottling, and that's typically done within the year that a white vintage is produced. Reds, on the other hand, as I mentioned, when we were chatting previously, our 23s are just now getting ready to finally bottle. So
right.
So they've had quite a bit of time, well over a year now, mm-hmm. Of maturing, fermenting, maturing, getting settled out, that sort of thing, and then they go to bottle, and they'll, we'll probably still keep those in, our storage area for at least another year before we even think about serving one
right.
of those. So I think it depends on the wine, and we'll be testing, anything like that you test over time to see mm-hmm. if it is ready.
Yep.
As you say, a lot of that stays in barrels. We've got things in barrels too that are just sitting, and as soon as we deem those to be ready, we'll we'll kind of pull them out and start getting those ready to filter and bottle and such. So vintage, I think, is, basically kind of to let people know where the wine comes from, so to speak. Yep. So if you're drinking something that's a 22 vintage, those grapes, you can kind of put it in your mind's eye that, I remember that was a terrible summer. Mm-hmm. The grapes were, we were in a drought, and the climate was doing this here. So over time, if you have the chance to taste, a different vintage of the same wine from the same vineyard, for example, and the same winemaker, you can kind of taste Mother Nature, so to speak. You get that vertical tasting going, and you'll be able to understand the difference in each of those vintages, even if the same hands, made each of those successive wines.
Yep.
So,
yeah, I think that's probably one of the greatest things about reading a label of a bottle, and it says vintage on it, and you see that, and then you yourself, and I'm actually really guilty of this. I like to have several. If I like a varietal from a winery, I'll have several bottles of that over the years for different vintages of it.
Yeah.
And so that way I could taste how it's going to taste, year after year after year. In fact, I know that, for a prime example, I actually had a 2011 Texan from Bob Landon that I opened up. And I regret it every day opening it, because it was the most amazing bottle I've ever opened up. And I was telling everybody, spit it back in the bottle.
Well, I'll remind me not to have a glass of that when I come over.
No, that was already. That was already all told.
I'm teasing.
But I do have several bottles in my refrigerator, or my wine refrigerator, that's as old as 2017. So I've got some really good stuff that's been sitting there that it's almost time to drink now.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's knowing when to drink some of those and how long those vintages will actually last. And I don't know that I'm qualified to even speak towards that, because I've opened some things and gone, I probably could have let that sit for another couple of years.
Right.
But in other cases, I've let things go a bit too long. So I think that's a piece that I'll be trying to put my finger on for the rest of my life. Because you don't want it to go too long, and it's not as good as it could have been either. Vintages are, simply put, like you were saying, it's kind of where it comes from. So time wise.
Yep. Well, Tom, I really appreciate you and Whitney allowing me to come out here and sit down and talk with you and get to know y'all a little bit better, and just really just get to have this great conversation with you. I've always, when we've seen each other out in public somewhere, I saw y'all run as fast as y'all can away from me. No, we've always had great conversations when we saw each other and stuff. And really coming out here and actually indulging in what you've got, just the view. I mean, it's absolutely stunning out here. And people, y'all need to come out here, look at this, because I can describe it all day long. Actually, I'm not a really good descriptor because I'm an IT guy, so my words are like the worst thing in the world. But y'all need to come out here and check this place out. It's absolutely stunning out here, and what they've got going on out here is absolutely amazing. The tasting room is absolutely gorgeous, and I think y'all should have some weddings out here because of it. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, well, we have no pun. We have enough headaches without trying to be involved in a wedding. But,
one step at a time,
but we have had a few folks reach out to us to do that. We're just not ready for that kind of scale on things.
I'm just trying to help you out. Okay.
Yeah. We'll get there maybe eventually.
Man.
We'll see.
All right, so real quick, I'm going to hit our sponsors. So one of our big sponsors, and obviously you're part of this also, is Texas Wine Lover app.
Absolutely.
That is probably the best resource that you can find on Texas wineries. It shows every winery in Texas how to get there, and you can filter down to just the minute stuff. If you're looking for a dog-friendly one, if you're looking for one that's handicap capable or accessible, you just filter it down to even kind of wines they serve. Such a great thing. So you can find that on Texas Wine Lover app, and you can also find it on their website at texaswinelover.com.
Absolutely a great resource.
Oh, it's beautiful. In fact, I use that to do a little bit of research on y'all. And then one of my favorite ones, and I actually got somebody to actually use it because I hadn't had a chance to use it, is my Fly with Wine suitcase. Have you heard of them?
I have not.
So Fly with Wine has a suitcase that's padded that you can put wine in it. Yeah. So instead of shipping it from overseas, you just throw it in the suitcase, and you don't have to pay for anything extra, like shipping and waiting 2 months to get it over here to the United States.
That's awesome.
Yeah. You can get your wine already on your check-in bag, and then you can pop a cork while you're driving home.
I'd be willing to wear the same set of clothes the whole trip just so I could have all the wine coming back.
I'll be visiting a laundromat every day.
Exactly.
I don't know if they'll like that. Wait a minute. They'll be sitting there kind of in the buff, you know. I don't know if they want that or not.
You scared me, man. You scared me.
All right. So, you know, we always end these shows with wine quotes. Okay. So the first one I got here is, a gourmet meal without a glass of wine seems tragic to me somehow. And I've had some really good meals out there that had no wine and just had water. And I'm like, this is not exciting no more.
That's pretty profound.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And this one here is, and I'm going to try to pronounce his last name properly, Charles Baudelaire. Yeah, it's French. I'm Texan, so that's a problem. Quote came from him: "One should always be drunk. That's all that matters. But with what? With wine, with poetry, or with virtue, as you choose. But get drunk."
Okay.
I like that, right?
Yeah. Just don't drive anywhere after.
That's right.
Yeah,
Don't drive.
exactly.
Now, getting your horse and carriage, you're okay.
Yeah. I don't know. You can still get a ticket on a horse. I understand.
Yeah, I've heard some Amish people like that. Yeah. So, well, this is Will with We Know Texas Vino. Tom, thank you for letting us come out here.
It's an honor, sir. Thank you for the opportunity.
I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. And cheers.
Cheers.